Last week, we had an extraordinary conversation with George Kender, the father of life planning and also the creator of those three important Kender questions. Today, you're going to be listening to part 2 as we continue that conversation. So listen in.
You go to Bill, and he's been doing some tests, and you've been feeling perfectly healthy. And you go in, and he said, gosh, I got some tough news for you. First of all, the good news, as long as you live, you're going to feel as good as you feel right now. You're going to feel great, okay? But unfortunately, you've got this rare ailment that will kick in. You don't know the exact moment, but sometime between year 5 and year 10 from now, it's going to kick in and you're going to pass away. No pre-notice of it at all, bang, you're gone, okay? So you know you have 5 to 10 years left to live. And the question then is, knowing that, what would shift in your life? What would you do? How would you live your life? What would be different? He says, I misdiagnosed. I didn't realize. These tests say that you have a terminal illness and it's come to term. You have 24 hours left to live. And the question here is not what you would do with it, with your daughter, your granddaughter, your family. It's not what you would do with it. The question is, looking on how you had anticipated living your life for the rest of your life, what did you miss? Who did you not get to be? And what did you not get to do?
You learn from the dark times.
Yeah.
And it's just like the stock market. It's volatile. It goes up and down, and there's no straight line hockey stick trajectory. But over the long run, you grow, and it compounds.
Yeah.
Just like the term in Japanese kaizen, 1% better every day. And then I struggle with perfection. And there's another concept in Japanese culture called ikigai, where the beauty is in the broken and piecing it together.
Yeah.
They'll take a piece of pottery that they've made beautifully and ornate, break it, put it back together, and call it perfect in its imperfection. Welcome to Catching Up to Fi, a podcast on mindset, money, and life for late starters of any age on their journey to financial independence. I'm Bill, and I'm a late starter.
I'm Jackie, and I'm also a late starter, and we're your host. We're here to help you on your journey to financial independence, no matter where you're starting.
We're going to talk to experts, other late starters, and explore topics related to our mission.
Join us as we catch up to Fi together.
Let's carry on through this. We got 2 more questions.
Yeah.
All right, number 2, here we go. So the second question here is, you go to the doctor this time. There's a scenario, all right?
Well, you come to me in the ER.
There you go. You got there he is,
Dr. Bill.
But it's got to be a GP that you're going to. It's not an ER because so you'd have to transform just a little bit.
We are GPs. We are the safety net of the nation as far as GPs. We practice a lot of family practice, just on an episodic, isolated way. And we try and dig into things that maybe haven't been found in preventive care.
Yeah.
So let's say you go to Bill then, and here we go.
Okay, Bill.
But Bill,
You twisted his arm, okay?
I love the ER people. I mean, I have so much respect. I had a number of clients who were doctors working the ER routine. And so I knew a lot about the struggles of it, the challenges of it, and also the great virtues of it. So anyway, proud to know that about you, Bill. And so you go to Bill, and he's been doing some tests. And you've been feeling perfectly healthy. And you go in, and he said, gosh, I got some tough news for you. First of all, the good news, as long as you live, you're going to feel as good as you feel right now. You're going to feel great, okay? But unfortunately, you've got this rare ailment that will kick in. You don't know the exact moment, but sometime between year 5 and year 10 from now, it's going to kick in and you're going to pass away. No pre-notice of it all, bang, you're gone, okay? So you know you have 5 to 10 years left to live. And the question then is, knowing that, what would shift in your life? What would you do? How would you live your life? What would be different?
Why don't we let Jackie take it first?
Cool.
Okay. All right, I'll go first. Okay. So the legacy, life, and purpose, that would matter, but obviously, I feel like really building the legacy and all of that would take the longer. Okay, but this is compressed into 5 to 10 years, so I have to decide. Okay, so I think what I would want to do is like different creative works. I would want to get out there in the atmosphere that I know will live forever. You know, maybe even this podcast that's creating content and things that will live on forever. You know, there's at least one last book that I wanted to write, so I need to quit moving the goalposts and write that last book on kind of my story. Also thinking about my daughter, I guess sort of making sure I've got her pointed in the right direction. I would probably speed that up. And my soon-to-be grandchild.
Divulge it on the podcast, Jackie?
I think that might have been the first time I divulged it.
Oh my God, Jackie's gonna. My God, Jackie's gonna be a grandma. I'm gonna be a grandmother.
I know, I'm gonna be a grandmother. She is over her first trimester, so first-time grandmother. So that baby would be 5 or 10 years. And so I would want to spend even more time with her. We did find out that it's a girl. We've got a family of nothing but girls. So I would think similar to if, you know, there was no time frame, but having a compressed time frame, these are the tangible things that I would want to do. And I would think about the experiences with daughter and granddaughter, but also creating things that I know will live forever. And also Bill has been bullying me about writing a book on HSA. So I need to get that out there because I believe I have a unique lens.
I wouldn't call it bullying you.
All right. Well, that's nice. So that's a nicer word. You're right. So Bill has been a cheerleader and a big supporter in having me do that because I have some very unique things to say that no one else is saying. And I could put that off for years. And it would be time to stop putting things off that I could get done a lot sooner if I knew that I had a compressed amount of time. So I guess that's my answer.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Great, Jackie. I love them. And maybe I'll just comment briefly that the creative stuff, kids and family come to the foreground with this question for a lot of people. And those things that you have put on the shelf and you know you got to get done, well, now there's a time frame. And so those come to the foreground too. But then the legacy things are still there. And so that weaves in. So wonderful to hear. Great to hear. I'm honored to hear about your grandkid coming along. All right, Bill, your turn. What do you got? What do you say, man?
Great questions. I love these questions. And I'm going to alter my answer to the first one a little bit with this construct.
Sure.
I might not completely leave my job completely. I would strip away the art of subtraction. I'd take away night shifts. I'd take away weekends. I try and negotiate one day a week to give back as an emergency physician because I think I truly have something to give there. And it provides a little bit of structure. It is part of my identity. So maybe not leave everything. And I am more 0.8 part-time now, but I go ultra part-time. And I think with longevity in the place that I work, they would probably want me to do that because of what I offer the community, so to speak, and I practice in a small community. So maybe a little bit of an altered decision there. As far as the 5 to 10 years, I wouldn't regret. I feel like I have enough now, and I want to live the life of enough going forward. I wouldn't regret anything I've done. And it just gives me an opportunity to focus my energies on things I still want to do, expand this podcast, become more of an entrepreneur, be more creative in my pursuits. This is also assuming a little bit that you have the freedom financially to do this, I think. It's not necessarily part of the question, and I don't know where I would stand there. And then I've seen this. I have to say I've seen this in the ER. Just the other day, I had the unfortunate honor to care for a 35-year-old woman that came to me with nonspecific aches or pains, and things were just off. And it hadn't been discovered. It hadn't been found. And then we did a little bit of a deep dive because we have to do that, not only to quote unquote cover our ass, but to sort of give them the efficiency of finding out either there's the reassurance there that we didn't find anything bad, but in this woman, we found metastatic melanoma. And it turned out that she had had melanoma 2 years before, and that sneaky disease had come back. And she was a single mom who had that to think about. She was surrounded by her mother and her sister-in-law. And I get a lot of compliments for changing people's lives in the podcast. The mother of this daughter came to me after spending some time with them, and I only get a brief amount of time. It can be 5, 15, sometimes 30 minutes, but it's focused energy. It's living in the moment. And she said, "Thank you for your compassion."
Yeah, beautiful.
And so this does exist. And people don't know if they're going to have a car crash the next day. I have a real good friend that happened to her with 4 kids.
Yeah.
So you really don't know. And these stories don't just happen to other people. They happen to you in your life. And you have to spend, as I would, more time with friends and family, more time meeting new people, both young and old, because I think that's important to get outside of your generation. You know, like yourself, you're a 20-year-old in a 50-year-old's body, George. You know, we don't know how old you are, but I couldn't tell. I honestly couldn't tell how old you are. And I appreciate that you're 20 years my senior, which we do know. And I can already call you a friend. Yeah. That's where I would focus my energy. Yeah. Friends, family. I would focus it on travel too. I love the world. I love looking at my country from outside my country. I lived in Germany for a total of about 2 years. I lived in England for a year. Gives you a completely different perspective, and you can get lost in your own bubble as an American citizen unless you get outside of that. And Jackie's doing that now. She's going to be traveling the world, getting all these things going on. Bali is next on the itinerary. Thailand was. And good for her. These are important things, not important to everybody. Some people grow up and live in a community their entire lives and travel in their own minds, travel in their own moments. I'm not discounting that in any way, and I would try on new things. This is where you have 5 to 10 years. That's still a long time. You still have time to experiment. I'm not done yet.
Right on, man. All right. Well, there's a lot of energy there. You see this building of energy, and you can really feel it in you, Bill. And with Jackie, I felt more of a deepening in the heart going to the family and everything. And this is kind of classic. What happens, there's a deepening no matter what, one direction or another with this question. And the third question takes us deeper still. And that's why you can't ask it first. You have to have this kind of movement. And you're moving in this funnel toward the present moment in a way. And this is one, again, we'll use Bill as an example. You're going to Bill, and he's been generous enough to let you come on in. And again, he's been doing some tests, and you go in there and you're feeling perfectly fine, feeling great. And Bill says, I just can't believe, sorry, Bill. He says, I misdiagnosed. I didn't realize these tests say that you have a terminal illness and it's come to term. You have 24 hours left to live. And the question here is not what you would do with it, with your daughter, your granddaughter, your family. It's not what you would do with it. The question is, looking on how you had anticipated living your life for the rest of your life, what did you miss? Who did you not get to be? And what did you not get to do?
These are regrets of the dying?
Could be. Could be. Framed that way.
I disagree with you that I wouldn't not do something. I would both reflect and still do something. It would be very simple. I would fly my kids into the home. I can't do it?
No, all I'm interested in.
You got to follow the directions, Bill. Follow directions.
I'm known as a rule breaker. All right. So I would go out to your cabin on the lake.
Yeah. What did you miss? Who did you not get to be?
What did I miss?
Get to be.
This I would say is the toughest question.
Yeah, it's hard. This is a hard one. I'm thinking as well. It's a hard one.
It is. It is.
I got to think on this for a minute longer.
I could go ahead with what I kind of think about the regrets. Okay. So for me, I'm thinking about more some tangible things, I guess, is I do wish I would have done more worldwide traveling. I never got to travel when I was young. I barely went out of state when I was young, and I'm just starting to do that. So I would regret that. And the other thing that comes to my mind, and Bill, I don't know if you were thinking of this too, but I think about Jonathan Clements, who has been very vocal since he got a cancer diagnosis. I think he had like a year to live or something like that. So this is obviously a lot shorter. It's 24 hours. But I would almost try to think about the things that I miss and think about, is there anything I can make up in 24 hours? And you were kind of asking us not to go there. But for instance, there's a lot of things that I would love to talk about publicly, and maybe even to have podcast episodes that I wanted us to do more of. And I would keep telling Bill, we need to do more one-on-one podcasts. We have a lot of cool things to say. Can't do that. So that's something I wish, because he's always been like, well, let's do it. And we just never did it. So that's a regret that we didn't. We're starting to turn the corner on that, but slowly, and I would say too slowly if I only have 24 hours.
Yeah.
Can you regret the future? Or does it have to be regretting the past?
No. This is as much about the future as about the past.
So I would regret not seeing my kids continue to grow as adults.
Yeah.
I would regret not seeing them find partners, friends in the world, whether it be marriage or not. And if they chose to have kids, I would regret not seeing another generation come to life and grow. I would probably regret more the future than my own past. I did a lot of regretting about my past when I was stuck in the loop of childhood in the 7 stages of money maturity. I'm done with that. I'm done with the anxiety over that. I'm done with the shame over that. I don't want those emotions in my last 24 hours.
Right.
I want hope. I want love. I want intimacy. And I would regret more the future.
Well, that's right. And Bill, the question is, what did you miss? Who did you not get to be? That's the future. What did you not get to do? And that's the future as well. So it isn't just regretting the past.
So George, do other people you ask this question have the type of anxiety or the angst that Bill and I had? This was the hardest, we thought. Is that what you typically get, or is it just me and him?
No, there's a wide mix of it, but and there's a stutter step there. What is it? I mean, how do I reflect on this? I haven't reflected on it. But if you think about it, this is where the legacy really is. If you came to the moment and you had a death sentence, that you were only going to live another 24 hours, you would have a lot of feelings about, in your case, missing that world travel, clearly missing your daughter and your granddaughter. You didn't mention that so much, but that's clearly there because that was so strong in the second one. And developing the podcast. And Bill brings up for the first time really strongly here, and this is also quite common, the family. That not seeing them grow up, not seeing the kids get married or find partners or have grandkids, that's also very common. And the thing that is really valuable here is that I mean, normally I would have given you like 3 to 5 minutes. You go sit, you reflect on it, you write on it, right? You were in the moment, and that's tough to do it in the moment.
Yeah, that was tough.
I find it, as an emergency physician, I find it easier to think on my feet. As a podcaster, I think it easier to think on my feet. I would be sort of stuck writing this down because I would get lost in perfection. I have to get this right. And this is messy. I'd rather talk about it. And I feel like I'm in a therapy session, and that's what it's about with financial planning. You've got to get to your core to understand yourself, because before you understand what your money can do to get to a better version of yourself.
The point here for yourselves, for the life planner working with each of you, is that I hadn't heard travel before with Jackie. And I hadn't heard your family, the sweep of family, and how you think about it, Bill, and what you would miss. And those things suddenly, to me, as your financial planner, as your life planner, suddenly those become extremely important to deliver them into your life soon. And Jackie, it's easier to do because it's travel, and that's obvious. But one of the questions that comes up when someone has these questions like Bill has about missing the family growing up is, what do you do to give Bill that now as much as you possibly can? And what it does with an advisor, and I'd say if you're doing this on your own, what you want to be thinking about is, how can you spend more time now with the family so that whatever your legacy with them is, and your both your gains from it and their gains from you, you're accelerating that right in this moment, because that's what's most important.
Well, you're bringing the future forward into the moment. And then because there's barriers to this. And most people think that the obstacle is money.
Right.
Yeah.
But as you say in your book, and Jackie, do you know what the real obstacle is here?
Yeah, it's your mind.
Yeah, your own
Yeah.
self.
Yeah.
And I love that. And then you move into, let's give the people some hope. Let's give our audience some hope. Because as a life planner, you talk about two things, the EVOKE method and the categories of the torch. Now we want to move on, and we want to give you the hope of this is how you do it, or at least, scratch the surface, because you created a method to help people get at this.
The method is called EVOKE, and it's in my Life Planning for You book, as well as in the 3 Domains of Freedom. So the quickest, easiest route to it is the 3 Domains of Freedom. It also is what I've trained thousands of advisors in all over the world. So there are people, and the very best of those, the most trained of those advisors, are what we call registered life planners. So I think of them as they're fiduciary. They put you first, and your dreams first, and your goals first. So if you have a place where you feel like you need a financial advisor who also will really place you first and your dream of freedom first, these would be people to go to. But so what we do, the process is called EVOKE, and it's an acronym for 5 stages. And the first stage is called E for exploration. The second stage is called V for vision. The third stage is O for obstacles. The fourth stage is K for knowledge. And the final stage is E for execution. Now, Jackie and I studied K and E and are getting our CFP, right? We studied that a lot. And Bill knows it in spades, because what he's done is just incredible with his work. So we've got that covered. But E, V, and O are how do we get there? So the V is the vision of who you really want to be. It's your dream of freedom, is how I call it, or your torch, as I also call it. What is it that you would want to carry forward? Your flag of freedom. What is it? And so the way EVOKE works is E for exploration means the first thing we do, and it's something you both do beautifully. You have rarely, if ever, interrupted me. That's a great listener. And most people aren't that good at listening. And so the first thing that you do is if you're working with an advisor, you want that advisor to totally give the ground to you. Even if it's 90% of a 2-hour meeting, you want to be able to talk and talk and talk. And so for yourself, you want to be able to write and explore and talk to your best friends and talk to your spouse. This is who I really want to be. But then the second one, but also that E for exploration, when you go into an advisor's meeting, what I ask is, why are you here? That's it. Why are you here? What would you want to come out of our time together, whatever? Why are you here? And they'll share stuff like, my dad was abusive. Or, I've just loved gardening. Okay. And there you have 2 things right away that would be part of that torch in some way. I'm not a therapist. I don't train therapists. What we do when a difficult thing comes up is we empathize and give them the space. If they want to go further, they can, but I don't say, tell me more. Oh, I'm so sorry. If they're saying it about gardening, I go, wow, that's so cool. Again, I don't ask them more. I just, I'm emotionally connected with them. So that's the E. And we need to get emotionally connected with ourselves around what's been tough and what do we look forward to. And then the V meeting is where we just were beginning to hang out. It's a 2-hour meeting, so spending like 5 minutes with the 2 of you really didn't give it justice. I'd be looking at what your ideal day, your ideal week, your ideal year would look like. I'd be doing a lot of different things. There's a number of different exercises. But out of that meeting where you're sharing, I would, toward the end of that meeting, I'd say, Jackie, so look, we're going to do this financial planning work together, but let me ask you this. If it's a consequence of our work together, I or we were able to deliver to you a nice home in nature, okay? And maybe a little help around what you do, a little bit more than what you got, more help around what you do. And that you have an incredible relationship with your daughter and your granddaughter. And it's just getting richer and richer. And you can't believe it, what is happening there. And your podcast has gone in directions that are stunning to you, whether it's the HSA or it's, other creative pieces that nobody's been talking about. And you're there, you're making it happen. And you've even begun to make it happen in places like Thailand and Bali. You're carrying your message wherever you go. And how would that be if we were able to deliver that to you? How would that be?
Oh my gosh, I would say that's wonderful. I want to do it like right away.
Yeah, and it'd be better if I'd had 2 hours with you in each of these meetings. That's even better, but that's the torch. And Bill, it'd be similar in some way for you, where, and I don't have it quite as clear, but what I probably would say is if as a consequence of our work together, I or we were able to deliver to you just a few years from now, and I give it a date, let's say 2.5 years from now, 2 years from now, maybe a year and a half, you're still in ER, but you're just doing it one day a week. And your role is tremendously as mentor and as wise human being to the people to the people you care for and to the other doctors in the office. And you've got the podcast is just singing and you're feeling so creative with it all. And you have really deepened and you've realized just how important your time is with your kids. And you are really connecting with them so that whatever happens in your life and in their life, this piece is going forward, your connection with them. So the question would be, how would that be? How would that feel?
No, it'd be awesome. And actually, I'd add to that too, because it would be fun to transition from physician full-time to entrepreneur.
Oh, I forgot that. Yeah, great.
And doing something for free is one thing, but doing something where you get remuneration, tangible monetary support for what you're doing. And we have monetized our podcast. It does support itself, but why not let it support the staff and the partners that I work with a little bit? Why not let it support me? Allow me to go to a conference, allow me to take a trip, allow me to go with my partners to do that. So there would be sort of a growth aspect to this for me. And I'd feel really good. And maybe you could help guide me there because I don't know how to be an entrepreneur. You're in your own business. How do you do it? Or who do I go to figure this out?
So that's the next step. That's obstacles. So, how do we do it? And the first thing is getting the vision really, really bright. What Bill did just then was beautiful and brighter. And do at the end of the process as we go, is anything that's this entrepreneur?
Well, and then the other thing too is I'd want to reach, just like you've done, a much larger audience, because there's so many people that aren't in our bubble that need the message. And how do we draw them in? How do we touch them externally to where they internally want to be with us on the journey?
Yeah.
Because they're like myself, they're lost in the woods.
Yeah.
And without direction per se, and they want what we're talking about, but they don't even know that it exists and they can have it.
So exciting, Bill. So exciting. Seeing your roadmap and knowing you're on your way. And I'm just gonna mention what happens in obstacles because I think we really do need to get to that third domain, given what the time frame is that we have. But here's the thing with obstacles, and what I would say to you is, you already know how to do it, man. You've got it. You are so passionate about this. I would build and build and build the passion, and then I'd say, hey, Bill, I've got lots of ideas. But I'd love to hear yours because you know your life and you know your experience and your skills and your connections and all that. So, I get a few of the visions out there for entrepreneurial life. And I'd say, so how would you do this one? What would be your first step? How would you do it? Can you do that this week?
The first thing I do is ask for help because I've been a lone wolf in my life because as an ER doc,
Yeah.
you're pretty much a lone wolf. You're captain of the ship.
Great.
You have to be self-sufficient. And to be an entrepreneur, you can't be.
Right.
You know, you need a coach, for example.
Right.
There are things, and then there becomes a financial barrier too. Can you justify, just like if I'm going to do this and I'm paying for it, like I'm paying for a gym membership, am I really going to embrace it?
Right. So that's what a registered life planner would do, is they would basically take you along that path. And it would be an intermingling. It would really be a partnership. It's why when I lit the torch, particularly in the way I framed it for Jackie, I said, if I or we were to deliver to you, and it's because there's a partnership that would be happening here, but you are ultimately the one who's going to deliver it. You're going to deliver it because the torch is going to be so brilliant for you that it's going to light a fire inside of you. And I'll be able to help facilitate that. I'll have lots of ideas, but you're going to have a lot of ideas too. And it'll be a fun trip to do together.
Oh, the journey should be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to have its travails, and you learn from your mistakes. You learn from the dark times.
Yeah.
And it's just like the stock market. It's volatile. It goes up and down, and there's no straight line hockey stick trajectory. But over the long run, you grow, and it compounds. Yeah. Just like the term in Japanese kaizen, 1% better every day. And then I struggle with perfection. And there's another concept in Japanese culture called ikigai, where the beauty is in the broken and piecing it together. Yeah. They'll take a piece of pottery that they've made beautifully and ornate, break it, put it back together, and call it perfect in its imperfections.
Right on. Yeah.
So you wanted to get to the third domain of freedom. This is your life's work today. This is where you live today. Take us on that journey. So
again, I frame my life in terms of freedom. I'm passionate about living a life of freedom. But what has happened, and as you both have spoken about your audience and your background, how you grew up and all, I feel the same way. I want to bring freedom everywhere. It isn't something, freedom belongs to all of us. There's a song that my daughter London and I did called the Freedom Song. And you can listen to it. It's on Spotify. It's also on YouTube. And it talks about the earth as being a domain of freedom, an environment of freedom. We are meant to live in freedom. And this feeling that we're trapped or that the world's going wrong, that just shouldn't be happening right now. Think about this for a moment. You've got one of these, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, we all got those.
I'm noting down, you heard me typing, I'm noting down the Song of Freedom because we're going to play this on the show.
Oh, great.
Because everybody should hear it. But yes, we have a smartphone. Tell us what we can do with it.
If you can show me in London singing it in our cabin out here, that's really special. You know, I'm this 70-year-old geezer, you know, and she's 16 years old, and we co-wrote those songs. We did a whole album. It was in COVID time, and it was that first COVID summer where we didn't know what was going to happen, right? They were 16 years old. And how do you, as an old parent, hang out with two teenage girls during COVID where they can't go out and do anything, right? What are you going to do? So one of them actually helped me curate photographs. She's got a wonderful eye. And the other one wrote these songs with me, 7 songs. A number of them are protest songs, a number of them about the earth, a number of them are songs of freedom. So anyway, the freedom song, where am I going here? Civilization. We were able to do that because of civilization. We're hanging out together because of civilization. We've just made friendship with each other from, 1,000 miles apart because of civilization. Put this ability, this technology together for us, made us wealthy enough that we can do it, can afford it, and talk to each other. It's pretty amazing. And imagine if, people don't realize the human species is coming together. Doesn't feel like that, But historically, we've gone through a place now of nation states. We were tribal and much smaller earlier. We've now graduated to nation states. Now, right now, we see this thing about, are there going to be 3 big powers out there, maybe 4? That can't be what's happening. Everybody on the planet, 90% of people, You travel all over the world. Look at Bali, look at Thailand, where you're going. They all have these, right? Yeah. I mean, so imagine if this device, on all things that we might vote on, and on all things that we might purchase, was required to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Okay? Would we be able to vote? Would humanity be able to come together? We'd still have differences of opinion. There's still a bell curve around truth and all of that. But it wouldn't be major conspiracy things taking over the news, and it wouldn't be billionaires controlling, or governments or corporations controlling what our news feed is. Be required to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Humanity's coming together. This is the first time we've had this capacity. And what I did, I mean, the Golden Civilization book came out of the Great Recession, and the Map of Mindfulness, that's part of it there. And what happened was I got, Jackie, you were asking me earlier about how did I do this with the financial world? And this was at the end of the banking crisis, and I got really ticked off. I think I mentioned, I thought, how could the financial services be doing this terribly and bringing so many people into harm? Huge recession all over the world, people losing their homes, people losing their jobs. How could this be happening? And I thought, I want to do something about it. This is a time for people to come together. And there's no excuse for all of us not living in freedom. Every one of us should.
Agreed.
Absolutely. And what a difference it would make if we all did, in terms of, now we can't talk to some people. You go out in public and you don't dare say some things because, who knows where they are standing on that and all that. I mean, it's crazy. We've got big hearts. Everybody wants kindness. And everybody, you might not think it, but everybody really wants truth. Even the people that I know on the opposite side of the political camp, they want to know what the truth is. They have a different opinion, but they want to know what truth is. Well, let's make sure we do that. Well, I'm kind of going all over the place here, but what I want to say is that I went back and I put on my economics hat. I minored in economics at Harvard. Before I got to English literature, I went from math to economics to art, history of art, and then ultimately to English literature. But I really loved how economists thought. And I put on this economics hat and I thought, how is it that we know that the earth is on fire? Why haven't we really done something about it? Right now, we know that democracy is being challenged. Why aren't we doing something about it? We know that the media is not telling us the truth. We know one side, might have an opinion as to which one. Why can't we do something about it? Why aren't we doing something about it? So I went back and I thought like an economist. I went back, first of all, to the beginning of what allowed the three of us, to come together in this wonderful meeting. And the technology, the huge power of growth that you all have invested in, that we all have invested in as part of our freedom, okay? And it's just an amazing thing. And, a lot of people say it's the best system there could possibly be. And they challenge you to come up with, show me a better one, if there's a better one. But if it was, and I love it, but if it was the very best system that there could be, wouldn't it make sense with all the entrepreneurial stuff, Bill, where we know what entrepreneurial is? It's this competition, and the best thing rises up to the top. That's the nature of how capitalist entrepreneurialism works. And it's a great thing. I love it. But if the system as a whole was the best thing, wouldn't we find that in that competition of entrepreneurial endeavor, after 250 years of doing this competition, wouldn't we find that the very best of humanity would be at the top of every hierarchy of power? How come we don't find that if it's the best system? We've had all this competition, all this growth, right? So that question, I thought about it deeply, and I realized that not only do we not see it, we don't really see it anywhere. I mean, we might come up with one or two little things, but really, you look at the Fortune 500, you look at S&P, whatever it is, we don't see it anywhere. So if our system is not producing the very best of us, and I'm thinking of our kindness and compassion, I'm thinking of our wisdom. I'm thinking of your little granddaughter that hasn't been born and her
Aw.
spirit of joy and innocence coming out. And I'm going, why is it that every hierarchy of power doesn't have those things at the very top and it filters all the way through? Okay, if we had the best system, I think that would happen. So then I went, okay, so if that's not happening, then is there a solution that's simple? Because what happens with us politically is we go out and we do all this work to make the earth better or make our neighbors better or make our relationships with others better or to make the politics work in some way. We do all this work in all these different areas, all these good causes that we have, health and welfare. And there's a new one coming up, AI. We're getting worried about that. That's going to be a worry. And then there's the one that's coming up after that, which is it's called mirror cells. You probably know about it, Bill, which could throw the whole planet and all of us in danger. And we're fighting rearguard actions. We don't need to. If we have never produced the hierarchy of power that has wisdom and compassion at its top and joy and delight, then there's something wrong at the base. And that's a simple solution. That's a really simple solution. And so what I did was I put together a suggestion for it, and it's called Fiat, or Fiduciary in All Things. You mentioned it at the beginning. And it's a single sentence legislative proposal. And I'm now talking about it all over the world, wherever I can get a toehold or podcast or whatever. And it's a really simple thing. And what it is that it would require every institution, when it becomes corporate or government or nonprofit. So it reads like this. Every institution is required. See, I should read it directly.
I've got it right here if you want me to read it.
No, read it, Bill. Read it. Great. Let's hear another voice.
Because I'm a believer, and I'm going to ask right now for permission to put the avatar of this on our website.
Yes.
Because you put together some graphics that we should put out there and be a part of your world.
Yeah.
So, quote, this is from George Kinder regarding how to make the world, how to bring the best of us to the top and start at the base. A fiduciary standard of obligation is required for all institutions, corporate, nonprofit, and governmental, to place the interest of all stakeholders, of truth, of humanity, democracy, and the living planet that sustains us first, above all their own self-interest.
Imagine.
Wow. Yeah. What if we lived in a world like that?
Exactly.
That would be amazing.
Wouldn't it? And I've done these kitchen table conversations where I'll gather people together and I'll ask exactly that question. How would your life change? And people talk about trust and being able to have conversations. It broke my heart. One of the young girls that is young women who's a friend of my daughter's said, if that happened, I'd actually maybe for the first time think that maybe I'd want to have children.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the art of passing the torch to the next generation and using Kaizen to improve each generation in sort of a macro scale. And it's not something that happens quickly, right? This takes time, and it takes people like you that bring this up. But a fiduciary standard that isn't just a financial fiduciary standard. It is a standard upon which we live our lives, where it's not a fight to the top. It's a fight to elevate those around us so that we don't need to be at the top.
Right.
There's always going to need to be leaders, but you may not be the right leader. And, as Jackie always says, she wants to elevate those around her and let them be better than us at the skills they have. It doesn't matter. It's an ego thing, right?
Right on. And your audience probably knows, but one of the questions people come up with is, what's this term fiduciary mean? And you probably have talked about it in your podcast, but it means that you care. It's a standard of care. And it means that you place the interest of the person you're working with, their interests, ahead of your own self-interest. And
it's like the Hippocratic Oath.
It's exactly like the Hippocratic Oath. And when you think about it, Bill, how is it, a corporation, a government, a nonprofit, these are artificial constructs that humanity came up with. And they're experiments. They were creative, really wildly creative. They did amazing things. But it's time to recognize that they also weren't perfect. How could we possibly have given an institution of any kind the freedom to think their own self-interest could come ahead of democracy or the truth, or of people or the planet? How no sensible human being would have ever set that up. And we didn't realize, and what the reason that we're in this amazing time, I think this is an amazing time, because what happens is when you go to scale with a great business, the bad part is you take the negative externalities to scale. So what we're doing with this Hippocratic oath of fiduciary is we're eliminating those negative externalities. So that instead, when a great corporation creates, they're also thinking about the planet. They're thinking about their people and the people around them. They're thinking about the truth, and they're honoring democracy. Wow, what an amazing thing.
And what we don't realize, as we had with Janine Firpo, we vote with our money. Money is a source of truth, power, a tool. It's probably the strongest vote. Green investing, investing for the corporations, the governments, the nonprofits that are doing this elevates the best of us to the top, right?
Right on. Right on.
Yeah, and George, I have to share this both with you and Bill. So I think of you two and what you're doing. You know, this is George, the man behind life planning. This was a young boy that just wanted his freedom, but he created an entire movement, an entire genre that is going to have a huge impact on the world, and financial planning and life planning. And Bill, I always tell you, even though you're still working, look at the gift that you have given to so many people with creating Catching Up to Fi. Sure, I had it as an idea in my head, but I didn't do it. There's probably hundreds of other people that had a similar idea. You're the only one that did it and brought it to life. So I just want our audience to think about that thing that they're feeling like they're not big enough to do, they won't have a big enough impact, that if you brought it to the world, it could make a difference. Whether it's 5 people or 5 million people, it just makes a difference. So I'm lucky. I'm so happy that you guys followed your dream and did your thing, and you're still doing it. I'm better for it. Our audience is better for it. And I hope that they will realize they're in some position, some talent, some skill, some passion that they have to contribute to the world just to make it a better place, like you were saying, George. So I have to say that.
Well, this is easily one of the most important podcasts that we've done. This is the umbrella under which probably everything else lives. You know, I'm just so grateful, and gratitude is a part of what we need to have more of, for what we have and the gratitude for what we will build. So, George, I've loved the fact that we've given a platform for our audience to grow with your wisdom. Do you have, and I want to make sure that you live on with this legacy within our community, do you have any final thoughts for our late starters?
Well, I think building on what you're both saying and what Jackie was saying, I forget the great anthropologist's name, Margaret Mead, who said, you know, people often challenge me as to how a very small group of people could do something enormous. And she said, well, it's really the only way it's ever happened. That's how it's always started. It's just with one of us, small group of us, a handful of us. And I'm with you both. I mean, you're two of the most creative people I've met in this financial world. It's wonderful to be with you. And I hope that people will read the 3 Domains of Freedom. I hope that, because it gives a flavor of all the different things that I'm doing, or go to my website. But the 3 Domains of Freedom, we're meant to live in freedom. We're meant to live moment by moment in freedom, to have that freedom, to know how to do it. We're meant to have a trajectory of freedom, a life that we know is moving more and more, as you said, with the Japanese principle, more every day, 1% more every day into freedom. And civilization right now is meant to deliver freedom. It's not a utopian world to deliver freedom to us. It's the beginning of the human species working together for millennia. To pick up Jackie's notion of for centuries, this is how we are meant to come together and work together now, not to be fighting and have all these weapons around and be divided into these self-centered places. We're meant to come together. And civilization is meant to be a dream of freedom. I hope you'll read the book, and I'd love to come back if you guys have another idea about how we might go.
Well, I underlined it like a textbook around the Harkness table, and I hope actually your book makes it to the Harkness table if it hasn't already. I hope you've been a speaker at assembly at our school. If you haven't been, you need to be, because that's where great leaders come to educate the future leaders.
Yeah.
And I have hope.
Yeah.
Jackie, what are your thoughts and feelings on today's show?
Yeah, I was about to ask you the same thing, but I am feeling so motivated, invigorated, and we've both known George's work for a long time, but to be able to have this very meaty conversation with you, and I love money stories. I love to strip things down, and that's why I kept asking you those questions. I need to understand, how did you go from being a CPA to a CF? So those journeys, those are, most people can see themselves in. I started with this, habit path that was drawn for me to asking bigger questions.
Right.
And saying, I think it should be this way. Most people never act on that question or that statement. I think it should be different. Okay, what do you do about it? George Kender did something about it, and he created life planning.
Well, that is a great place and a great quote to close the show. I know I speak for Jackie when I say we're forever grateful for joining us here today. I think we've created something that is special. I think we've created something unique that didn't exist in the world before. I hope this message gets out there. You're more than welcome to take this message on your platform to get it out to your worldwide platform. I think we've done, quite honestly, a great job of distilling your world, your journey, your story, and your work into a 2-hour show. So thank you, George.
Thank you both. Thank you so much.
So, Bill, as you know, we cannot do this show without our amazing staff and the people that help us put this on. Our social media maven is Diana Falk, and our editor is Fritz Brizard. We love them, and they keep us going.
Yeah, Jackie, I mean, this show wouldn't have the quality it has without our folks, our peeps. And we'd also like to give you a few calls to action for the show. We love our community, and we hope you love us back. If you would like to support the show and our mission to help late starters, you can do that at Buy Me a Coffee, which is a platform that allows you to make a donation. The link is in the show notes and on the website.
Check out the show notes for resources mentioned in today's show. Also, head on over to our website at catchinguptophi.com and check out our vetted resources, partners, and affiliates for discounts and their services, because we love sharing great deals.
Please share the show with others and head on over to our Facebook community to help us grow. If you prefer video, head on over to YouTube and watch the show there. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Catching Up to Phi. We would appreciate it if you could also leave us a 5-star review to help our message reach others.
And while we are financial educators that love to teach, remember that our content is for general education and information purposes only. We are not providing financial, legal, or tax advice. Always do your own research or consult a professional before making important decisions.
So, Jackie, we'll see our audience next time on Catching Up to Phi. Cheers.
Preacher